guys.
Probably.
Believe me, it would be a different angle. Because, Brent, weren't you at one point pretty close to drumming for Billy Idol, but like right before this? Didn't you have talks were in place, possibly?
Basically, it was just, I had heard that they were looking for a drummer basically the same day that Slash called me. So, in a nutshell, the Billy Idol thing never happened. That doesn't even exist, but...
I got a nutshell for you.
You know what? Okay, we should talk about the day before I got a call from Slash. Todd and I played at the Cat Club here in Hollywood with Bruce Kulick.
Was that like that recent? I mean,
it was the day
so
after.
we did the show. It's funny because we're doing the Kiss Cruise with.
We've
done the Kiss Cruise last year with Bruce, and we're doing it again this year with Bruce. But back in 2010, I guess it was, Bruce put out BK3. Burger King 3. No, it was Bruce Kulick 3.
I bought it.
Yeah, it was a great album.
You weren't there we did like a release party that night.
At the Cat Club on Sunset.
And it was part of one of the Gene Simmons Family Jewels episodes because Nick Simmons came up and sang with us that night. But Todd and I were part of Bruce's band.
Yeah.
And that was actually a new to you and the introduction to Bruce because you and I had never even played together. I've known Todd.
We've known each other a long time. We've never played in a band together.
Is the Winnipeg music community that big where two guys would not?
Well, Canada. I'm not from Winnipeg.
Where are you from, Chief?
Saskatchewan, the next province over, which is still an 8-hour drive away.
I'm sorry, research isn't in the budget.
It's from a town of very successful hockey players and one musician.
Yeah, Wendell Clark, the Brookbank brothers.
The Brookbank brothers
related
are my cousins. Yeah. So
I did my research.
I know you've done that research.
Who's the guy on the Blackhawks?
That's Sheldon Brookbank. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Todd's
Brookbank
grandmother
brothers.
has drank wine from the Stanley Cup.
From the Stanley Cup. She's no longer with us, but there's a picture of her.
That's pretty good.
That's great. My grandfather watched Two Girls in a Stanley Cup.
Wow.
Porn about hockey. All right, so hello. Bruce Kulick's probably having a heart attack right now.
I know,
oh my God! Don't talk about me on Earl's podcast.
Basically, Todd and I are both failed hockey players. That's
exactly.
Well, no, we ended up in not the same bands back in Canada. We knew each other on the
you just kind of cross paths
on the circuit playing in the 80s.
Respect each other's.
And when we both ended up in LA and crossing paths and Vegas, more specifically.
More specifically was that.
Then when we did, just to fast forward, the Bruce Kulick gig at the Cat Club, I stayed over in LA an extra day after Todd and I played.
So that was that trip. Okay, I kind of lose track of that. But yeah, you were out in LA. I went back home.
Yeah.
And then he's out in LA, and suddenly it's like I'm playing with Slash. I'm like, no way, that's awesome. Yeah.
It just is like a phone call. But our friend Pete Merluzzi, who's also been tour manager with Slash and Velvet Revolver, and he was kind enough to like recommend me. You know, it's always someone recommends you for a gig, and it's who you know. So I was recommended by some people, and Slash called me. And actually, his phone call was, "Hey, I've never met you, but everyone today was telling me you got to call this guy Fitz, you know, because Slash was putting this band together around that time to get ready to support his first solo record."
Myles was the only one really on board, I think.
Yeah. And I have to ask though, was he already lined to sing the tour, or was it Andrew Stockdale? I mean, why was that just to support that single? Because I don't remember. I wasn't a part of it yet, so I actually don't know the story.
We're going to get into that part. Yeah. Don't worry. We're not leaving you out, Chief.
Oh, no. It's fine.
Oh, no.
No, go on.
But the first little introduction was Slash and I talking, and then we got together to do a little, playing together, see if there was, some chemistry.
How does that go about? Like, you walk into a room, hey, dude, what's up? Small talk, and then you play like a GNR song, or...
It was set up ahead of time. Slash sent me a little list of, hey, let's work on these songs. And what was cool was he threw me a curveball right at the last minute. It was one of the new songs. I think he'd sent me
do you remember what song it was?
I think it was By the Sword.
Oh, yeah.
And so in the 11th hour, I was kind of like quickly putting this new song together, and it was probably like Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, Night Train, or something like that. Some Guns N' Roses songs, and maybe a Velvet Revolver song, and then something new. And I jammed in a room with him at Mates.
Just you and him?
Hollywood. No, there was like. So there was a bass player and the first guitar player that toured with us for quite a while, Bobby Schneck. And I think even those guys were kind of like, hey, I don't really know if we're all in the band yet, but it was a little bit kind of like unsure, and maybe even Slash wasn't sure what exactly he was putting together, but gonna put a band together to go and tour this record. But as it it seemed to gel with him and I was like, okay, well, he'd asked me, hey, do you want to, join the band, and we're gonna, do some shows, and then we kind of got those 4 guys together before even Myles Kennedy had played with us.
Even when I came in, Myles wasn't there yet.
But the interesting story about the first 3 days was we rehearsed with Bobby Schneck and a bass player, Dave, and Slash and myself getting songs together, but there was just a little bit something that was maybe, we were just missing something, or I remember Slash and I kind of talking about...
it wasn't Canadian enough, I think is what he's trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
They needed a really good-looking, tall bass player.
I can just tell you this, that whatever wasn't working, I had the answer very quick. And I remember telling Slash, hey, if this isn't working, I have the guy. And I literally had on speed dial Todd and a picture to show Slash, hey, what about this guy? Because I think we were going to try some other bass players just to check out like some other vibes. Because we had a little time before we were going to do the first shows. And I just said, hey, what about this guy? And it's all about who you know in the business. Like
so I'm sitting at a Chili's with my father.
This is so
As
great.
you do. My father was in town. I was looking at houses.
In Vegas.
In Vegas, yeah. So, and my
You
dad's
didn't have your house yet? Wow.
and my dad's a grown-up. So I literally bought my house, and I closed on my house, and 8 days later I was on the road for a year and a half. So
Yeah.
it was a weird story. But I was like, my father was down and helping me. I'd never bought a house before. Well, I owned a condo at one point, but that's a whole other chapter. But so he's down, and I get this phone call from Brent, and I'm sitting at the table, so I just pick it up. Hey man, what's going on? He goes, hey, can you be in LA tomorrow by noon? Jam with Slash at Mates, and I go, yeah, I think so. I looked at my dad, I go, because he's in town, and I'm like, this is kind of totally like disrupting the entire process. And I go, hey, do you want to go to LA tomorrow? He goes, I've never been to LA. I go, then there you go. Whatever happens, it's kind of like I get to take my dad to LA, which is basically, here's North Hollywood. And, so that's basically the brunt of what he saw.
Here's Lancashire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And then...
I think I told you, though, like, okay, bring an Ampeg, bring a Fender P bass, and
I just brought my P bass.
And the thing was, I don't even think I told you
Put bass.
what
it
songs
wasn't
to learn.
It wasn't like a...
Because I already knew that Todd would know all the songs needed.
And it wasn't really like you're trying out. It was more like, you want to come jam? And I've been living in Vegas jamming with everybody. I was kind of like the quintessential, like, show up and jam rockabilly, or show up and play metal, or show up and play classic rock, and I could pretty much kind of find my way through everything. Obviously, Guns N' Roses was like, I literally didn't even... I think I might have listened to, like, brought a CD to play in the car on the drive down, like, oh yeah, because I played all of Appetite my whole life, it's just like I know Appetite. I could play the guitar, or sing it, or play bass, whatever. And so we showed up, and all I remember really running through was Night Train. It's the only song I remember like running through, and then him kind of going, okay, and suddenly I was learning how to play By the Sword in that very room, in that Mates room, over the PA system, just kind of like, okay, well, this is a new song, press play, and I'm sitting there trying to learn this, like right there in the room, and it was like, oh wow, and then he tweeted something right away, Slash is like, our bass player is Todd Kearns, and it went,
Was it that immediate?
it seemed like it happened very, and the best part of the story is that as I'm putting my amp together and getting my bass amp, I turn around and my father's talking to Slash, like, total old school windbreaker dad, 70-year-old, shaking hands with Slash, and you're like, oh my God, what are they talking about? Yeah. Slash is like, who is this guy?
Wait a minute, look, so just back up to when you first came into the room at Mates for it was the first day of, okay, we're going to try this
Which is the same room we always rehearse.
new bass player.
Yeah, right.
What happened was you came in, and I remember I was talking to Slash, but he wasn't facing the door, and you came in, and I think your dad came in first.
That sounds about
So
right. That sounds like my
So Slash saw your dad first and looked at me and goes, who's that guy? I go, oh, that's his dad.
Yeah.
Oh, his dad's here? It's like, it's a little bit crazy at first, Todd's dad rolled in with a very, Saskatchewan red
Regular
breaker.
guy. Hey, how are you?
And yeah.
Yeah, it was like really, it was a very surreal thing because we ended up staying at the Sportsman's Lodge, which is a very Hollywood rock and roll band thing to do.
I used to do comedy there. Thank you very much.
Of course, yeah.
It couldn't have been more perfect. Jam at Mates, stay at Sportsman's Lodge. But
I mean, we briefly stayed at the Sportsman's Lodge.
what a crazy story,
So,
right? Like how much it's not, it's not a glamorous story. It's like, from having lunch at Chili's to
Yeah.
the next day you're literally jamming, and then
And then he wouldn't let me go home. That was I had to go home, and I had gigs. I gotta go back. So they let me go back and do.
That's the
that.
honorary Canadian in Todd.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to let anybody down that he'd already committed to that weekend.
Yeah, I was
think Slash said, well, if you just go do your gigs, but I'll make sure you come back like for the Sunday. And
exactly.
He went home for a day or something.
Which is very Slash now that we know Slash. Yeah, go do your thing, and then like be here like 10 seconds after you're done. Just come right back and play with us.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And when I came back, and literally it feels like there was, I'm at Chili's, I'm jamming Night Train, and boom, we're on the Jay Leno
Jamming
show.
Night Train and Chili's.
But
and it
did
felt like it
happen
went
within
so
a week.
fast. It was like,
We put you in the band, and in a week later, all of us were, it was like we did.
And that's before Myles even showed up. Like,
So who was singing when you guys were auditioning, or not auditioning, jamming?
We were just jamming.
It was just
instrumentally,
getting the music together, and what was happening was the first song that was a single on Slash's, that first self-titled solo record was the song
By the
was
Sword,
By the
yeah.
Sword, which Andrew Stockdale from the band Wolfmother from Australia was singing on. So what they were doing was bringing Andrew in to do some promo for it, like we did Jay Leno with Andrew. Then we did the George Lopez show, and we did the other show.
Ellen, you did Ellen too, didn't you?
No, but we did. What was the
We
other
did
show?
Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson. We actually taped,
all of those were done with Andrew. Yeah.
It's funny anyone who's not been involved in talk shows and know how they get put together, but we have a great story about the day we filmed Craig Ferguson and George Lopez.
Yeah.
2 episodes of George Lopez all on the same day.
Yeah.
It was like a crazy day.
And that was the first
talk
time
shows.
because we did By the Sword with Andrew, and we did Back from Cali with Myles Kennedy.
Same
So
day.
we had both on the George Lopez show. We did so that they played one night they played By the Sword, and the next night they played.
Oh wow.
They played.
I knew Ellen was Adam Levine though.
That was later on.
That was
yeah.
like 6 months in or something.
Oh really? I assumed it was all fairly.
Very early on, though, we did the Golden Gods Awards, and that's when Lemmy came in, which was like, it already got, for me, it was already crazy, Slash, and, the whole thing was nuts, and then, now you're suddenly jamming with Lemmy, which is insane. So we did the Golden Gods Awards with him and Dick Roll. They played Motorhead together. They played Ace of Spades. We jammed Ace of Spades. It's the
You played
class-
with, like, I stepped off the kit, you played with Dave.
I didn't play with him either. Yeah, that was because Lemmy was playing bass. But a classic story is when Lemmy came in and Slash. If you know Slash, he likes to play through songs. He's a muscle memory guy. He doesn't mess around. He's like, let's try Ace of Spades. And if you're a big enough fan of Motorhead, Lemmy doesn't want to play Ace of Spades. Even when he was playing his own show, he was kind of like, okay, fine, I'll play it. So we played through it once. And he was just singing because I was playing bass. He's like, "No, I'll just sing." And I was like, "Okay."
Are you talking about rehearsal?
Yeah, rehearsal. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to rehearse.
We had to rehearse it, and then Slash goes, "Okay, cool. Do you want to try that again?" And Lenny goes, "Do you want to fucking do Sweet Child of Mine again?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm having a very Lenny moment."
Well, we also had that. Remember, we jammed the Dr. Alibi song that Lemmy
And Lemmy
sang
did Dr. Alibi with us that
on
night.
Slash's record, and we were also going to play this song on the Golden Gods. But we had to rehearse the harmonies.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a section where Lemmy actually had 3-part harmony he had recorded.
In the
which was,
bridge of the song, there was it's a 3-part harmony.
and he got very serious about
Yeah, he got
that.
super musical about it. Like he pulled us aside and
We
sang
did
a
we did a
cappella.
harmony vocal with
Yeah.
Lemmy.
We're sitting there a cappella just singing the I feel alright doing what I do, and it was like really like surreal
And he was
to
like
stand there. And he's
directing us like.
and he had really great pitch. It's like you think of Lemmy because his voice is so Lemmy, but he was like when he was singing, he was really serious about it. He wasn't like just fooling around. He was like very serious. So yeah, we just rambled through that, and then that was early on too. That's probably within the first couple of weeks of being there as well. We kind of felt like we were in Hollywood.
So would that have been 2011 or 2010?
2010.
Okay,
That
so
all
2010.
happened early 2010.
And then how does Myles come up? Was it with Andrew? Was it like, we don't know if it's gonna? I mean,
No, Andrew was definitely there just to sing one song because he was supporting the first single.
Right.
Myles was definitely going to be the singer in this thing because we went to Melbourne really quickly. We went to this unveiling of the album for MTV.
It was
Australia.
It was releasing the MTV Classic
Australia.
channel.
In Australia. So we went over to Melbourne very early on as well, and Myles was singing that entire show. So it was basically that early lineup. It wasn't Conspirators yet. It was just Brent, myself, Bobby Schneck, Myles Kennedy, a very soft-spoken, quiet guy named Myles Kennedy that none of us had really met before. but he could sing the shit out of those songs. And then Slash, yeah, and that was it. And then we took it around the country. To be honest, in the early days, I was like, is this going to be like 3 months of flying out on weekends and doing like whatever, and then we're all going to go home and high five and that's it, you know? Mm-hmm. But
Slash might not have known what it was going to be.
I don't think he really had an idea what it was going to be. But I think he enjoyed himself so much and enjoyed the band. It was like a year and a half later that we, basically just went around the world a couple times. And we did a warm up show at the Roxy. Remember that?
Yeah, and I remember.
And that was Myles sang the night, but Andrew got up and sang.
What about this? Who was the
first? We did Woman that night too.
Who came early and sat off side to the front row?
Oh yeah, Mick Mars was at soundcheck.
Mick Mars was at soundcheck. He was the first guy there. At the show.
And you're doing soundcheck, and you're like, is that Mick Mars out there? Yeah.
Did he stare at you? I don't think he has any whites in his eyes.
I don't know, but it was very cool that he came down to the gig. So
yeah, we were pretty blown away.
Yeah.
So and then let's get to the guy to your right.
Anthony.
Yeah, exactly. Anthony Stassi.
There's Anthony Stassi, premier guitar player from the Las Vegas area. For what is the name of your band, Frankie? Anthony. I'm sorry.
I'm in a band called Frankie and the Studs.
iTunes?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Spotify.
Yeah, all that stuff.
So, hey, I'll just give you guys a shout out because you guys have known each other your whole life since
birth.
Child, right?
Yeah.
So went to school together.
Essentially, yeah.
Together.
We've known each other longer than we haven't. If you think about it.
7th grade.
Yeah.
14.
Are you guys like? How old are you now, Frank? 30? Same age?
You just turned.
He's a
30.
month in.
So when Frank joined this band, the Conspirators, you were.
Wait, it wasn't called. It was just called Slash featuring Myles Kennedy, right? That's all it was.
That's a whole other subject.
Well, they had a rule to
and
call
I
it
forget that was the case because I remember a Friends Open for you guys. I was like Slash, then Slash featuring Myles Kennedy, or was it just?
It was Slash featuring Myles Kennedy.
I'm forgetting, yeah. And Slash in the contractually obligated mention of Myles Kennedy.
Yeah, this is no joke here.
No, but so you were 23 though. When we
Frank was
auditioned
23,
you
yeah.
on Super Bowl Sunday, 2012.
Because it was February, so it just turned 2012.
But
I mean, a month into it.
Frank took a flight from Toronto overnight to audition.
Yeah,
He's not Canadian. He just happened to be in Toronto.
We're doing a gig.
Yeah. What happened to the other? Like, was it the other guy just wanted to move on, or?
I don't really know because Slash we did a new record called Apocalyptic Love. We finished that record.
We did a record because this man hadn't recorded before. So
That's
Slash,
true, yeah.
we all got in the studio. We actually worked on songs, a little bit on the road.
I remember being in our wardrobe cases one day, just putting clothes away or doing whatever we were doing, get ready for a show, and Slash just kind of went. So I think we're going to do the next record with the band. But there's didn't ask me if I was available or if I wanted to. It was just sort of like, that's what we're doing. And I remember going like us? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. This guy, we're like out in like Germany or something like that. And then like we suddenly go in and make this record with the four of us. And then we finished Apocalyptic Love. And by the end of it, did we not have the Conspirators name by then?
Well, that was the first.
No, we
album.
talked about it
first.
While we were recording. Remember, Slash was like, I want to give it a name.
We were watching TV one day
name.
in Slash's living room, and there was and he watches the History Channel and all these kind of like World War II things, and there was an episode coming up called The Collaborators, which was a World War II thing. He goes, he said he wanted to call it The Collaborators, and I go, okay. And I remember we were kind of like, that's interesting, but it doesn't quite roll off the tongue. And one day the very same thing happened. I was sitting on the couch with him, and I go, The Conspirators. Now that's a cool name. It was another like, war thing that was coming up, documentary thing, and he goes, which is very Slash. He just doesn't really react right away. He goes, and then like a couple days later he'll go, so I think we're gonna call the band The
You
Conspirators.
deposited the idea, and then it
He
blossomed.
likes to ruminate, let it. So yeah, you're right. I think that is better. But I'm pretty sure that was before you walked in the room. Anyway, I think we kind of settled on that. Yeah.
Right, and when I walked in, I remember. Well, when I auditioned, I think you had just finished like auxiliary percussion. Like you just finished.
Yeah, we were basically in the tail.
Something like that. You had just finished the album, so I don't even know if you guys were. There was no title other than Slash featuring Myles Kennedy.
We got to back up. When Slash was deciding we were going to record, it was Myles was going to play guitar and Slash was going to play guitar. I think that was
and
why
Myles
the
did
four
play
of us
guitar.
worked on the record, and Myles played everything on.
I remember Myles
left
being
side
really
of
kind of kind of mildly stressed out about he's still working on lyrics, he's doing all this stuff, but now he's got to go in and come up with all these guitar parts and stuff like that. He was kind of like,
yeah, but he's a great guitar player.
But he's an amazing guitar player.
And he was super stressed out about it. Obviously, I wasn't a part of the process, but I remember hearing him say, like, considering it's his first effort writing with the band, as a singer, But now to write guitar as well was just like extra weight. But he killed it. He did such a great job. I mean, those rhythms.
His parts are great on
so
that too,
good.
yeah. And all of his parts are great. At the time, Brent and I both went into a room with a steady stream of guitar players auditioning at Mates again. This sort of like, we're going to get another guitar player. So Brent and I are just kind of like, Slash was kind of like, try out some guys, whoever you like, then I'll come down and jam with them the next day or something like that, or whatever the hell we did it.
Do we have a choice? No.
It was
Not at all.
And what are you looking for? More, I'm assuming all the players are around the relative skill level.
Yeah.
If you're calling them in, is it a vibe? Like,
I guess.
how can we
I
get
would say
along with this guy?
There was guys. There was a lot of good guys.
A lot of
but
guys who are
mostly not the right guys, and that is
Yeah.
not a discredit to a good guitar player. It's just sometimes it's not necessarily the what's the best. It's the best fit.
Yeah.
It's not the best guitar player.
It's also, you're looking for the guy to accommodate Slash's playing. If he's a lead guitar player, it's like, it's a lot to ask the guy, well, you're not going to, you're playing Slash. That's kind of like, that's his gig, So a lot of the guys that we tried out, and some of them we really liked, a lot of those guys have gone on to do other things, or were doing other things at the time anyway.
Yeah.
But, Brent brought up, what about that Frank guy from Vegas? And I remember saying this in full confidence now that I know and love him. At the time I was like, you mean that young guy? The kid? I go, I know he's fantastic and everything, but he's like, I looked around at our band and I was like, we're all like 20 years older than that guy. And that wasn't necessarily, just at the time it just seemed kind of like an unusual decision to kind of go there, but it made all the sense in the world, especially when he walked in the room. It suddenly was like, when you started playing with us, it was like, oh yeah, this is the guy. Why are we messing around? In reality, it should have been just like, why do we spend 3 days with these other guys? Should have just had him come in and go like, see, this was perfect.
Well, and it ultimately has to work for Slash. He
That
picked
too.
you. I mean, we brought you in, but he was the one that has to play.
Yeah,
with you
I'm
on
trying to remember the
guitar, so-
timeline of it because I remember being in LA with that other band and
We came to the Roxy to see you.
right, yeah, the timeline is such
Frank
a
was
blur
playing
now.
with a band that played the Roxy. We came down all of us came to see you. And
Right.
I remember we were all like, well, he looks cool as hell.
Based on your recommendation, so I remember it was like the auditions were recommendations from mostly you guys, right, or however that worked out. But it was just people that you figured, all right, well, let's give them a shot for the most part, or you were fed those people too.
Also,
So it's a mix of the two.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? In this town, it's not hard when someone's looking for a guitar player. It's amazing what goes on. I mean, I lived here for a long, long time, years ago in the '90s, and when you heard that somebody Ozzy's looking for blah blah blah, it's like the whole city finds out, and then everybody goes and auditions.
Right.
It's just the way it is here.
Right.
So I guess when everyone finds out, oh, Slash is looking for a guitar player, and it doesn't take much to.
Yeah, and the word
to
to
spread.
me at that point was, if you want to come down, give it a shot. Essentially, I think I had about a week or so to kind of like, well, is this even a thing, or what's the plan? And
What did you
once-
learn?
Mostly
What great
rap, mostly
guys.
rap stuff.
Yeah, Frank met me, and then I was.
What is your favorite rap record?
Well, fucking.
It's clearly
look
good.
what the rat dragged in. Wait, that's not right.
Listen, we're gonna cut this interview right
Yeah.
now.
You don't get this answer right, Frank, you're fired.
If I don't mean to break this up, but Slash almost
We've
was in
lost a lot of
poison.
listeners as
That
we
is
go
true,
into-
yeah.
No, the
That's
viewers.
true.
It is true.
Yeah.
But hold on. So.
Yeah, let's bring it back to seriousness.
Do you remember what we jammed? I don't remember what we jammed together.
I do, in no particular order. I remember we did Nothing to Say, which was a Slash solo song, which is like
And-
a super
And
metal.
Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold sang that song.
And then we did Back from Cali,
Okay.
another Slash solo song, and then we did Paradise City.
Oh.
And but again, to back it up, I got the word that like, yes, if you can make it on this Sunday, it's the only time we're doing. You guys were probably supposed to be off anyway, but it was like me, maybe 2 other people that were going to come down that night anyway.
Yeah.
And I flew. It was Super Bowl Sunday, so it was 6 a.m. that I flew. I remember I got on the plane at 6 a.m.
You played
Toronto
a gig
time.
Saturday night in Toronto. You left your
Yeah.
gig, probably still
Mod
sweaty,
Club, yeah.
got on the plane and came to
Oh,
LA.
Mod Club, yeah.
No sleep, and you jammed the next morning.
I remember, and what's really terrible is that the only flight at the time, I remember I had to fly from LA or to LAX, then spend $100 on a cab to go to Burbank.
Oh, of course.
And I barely made it. I was like 5 minutes late, which is incredible. It all worked out. But then I had 2 guitars and a tuner, and then just plugged into whatever amp, and yeah, we jammed those songs. I just remember thinking.
Actually, good thing you only had that, because I remember a lot of the guys we auditioned came in with pedal boards with 20 frickin' pedals, and right away, I think that was...
What was this, Steve Stevens auditioning?
Like, that's the kind of thing, like...
What are you doing here?
It's probably, first impression, it's kind of like, well, that's probably not going to work for the gig. It's a bunch of pedals.
I do remember this, and this just came to me. Right when I walked in, I was delirious, and Todd goes, see, he's got the right shoes. I don't know what the backstory
What
of that was.
shoes were you wearing?
Chucks.
Oh, you were wearing Chucks.
Exactly these. I remember you're like, hey, he's got the right shoes, so there must have been some
fancy
shoes.
I mean, somebody was wearing like these kind of Capezio types, you know, like those kind of like, remember the Randy Rhoads shoes that Randy used to wear?
I have 2 pair right now.
Put them on, dude.
Well, they say when Slash auditioned for Poison, he came in
He
like,
had the wrong shoes.
you know, water moccasin boots and
yeah.
like a fringe jacket, and then Cece walked in with like, you know, platinum blonde hair and, you know, like a T-Rex shirt, and, you know,
Boa, feather boa.
yeah, it was like, you know.
He was the right guy.
Or?
Yeah.
Now, were you a Guns N' Roses fan, or?
Absolutely, and I knew a lot of those songs to a point that I had to. I mean, what's funny is that I wasn't always learning the Izzy song or Izzy side of it when I was learning those songs growing up. It was more like
as a guitar player,
right? I mean, I wasn't too far off, but I had that week to kind of brush up and just make sure. And he was saying, I mean, this is kind of what we have been jamming, and none of it was really confirmed. So I was just trying to cram whatever I could, but you know, I just definitely.
Well, you jammed with Slash, so you didn't actually have to go through a process of jamming with the two of us, and then Slash was coming in. You actually just came in, jammed right with all
we
of us.
saved you. You got right to the final.
And then that, you know what's crazy is that night. What was even great about the story is that Anthony, to my right, get him on camera.
Guys, I'm not. I've got 2 arms. I mean,
Anthony Stassi on Instagram.
Yeah, we did Instagram Live. We did Facebook. I tell you what. Before Frankie completes his thought, we're gonna cut the Facebook Live feed off. You know, I can't keep this position for much longer. You guys, just leave a goddamn review on iTunes. You guys have no idea the hard work I do. I've been in basically a 3/4 beaver shot phase, trying to get Anthony on the camera. These 3 guys, the Conspirators, featuring Slash and Myles Kennedy.
I like that. That's a good nice.
It's a cold business. Things happen. Tomorrow night at the Palladium. I think it's sold out. Yes.
Close.
You know Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons would have said, yes, it's sold out.
Of course.
Call a SeatGeek, StubHub, go to the Palladium box office, mention my name. The tickets are still the same price.
Get a 1-for-1 deal.
Normally tickets are $40. You mention my name, it's 2 for $80. And the name of the album, guys, for those who haven't bought it yet.
Living the Dream.
Living the Dream / featuring Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. #1 on iTunes. You know, you have no idea. I literally felt like crying because I remember seeing Brent Fitz 20 years ago playing in Eagle Rock on Sunday nights in the Jeff Leiter Band.
Wow.
Doing covers in front of 3 people. And to see him get a #1 album along with these guys. And before we shut off the Facebook Live feed.
Yeah, but before
my
we
neck is killing me.
Before we shut it off, Earl, I was at your very first ever comedy performance, which actually was very
impressive. Was that your
wedding? Hold on. Earl's kid. It was at the Comedy Store.
It was at the Comedy Store.
It wasn't at like some place deep in the valley. No, you were at the Comedy Store.
Was it at Eagle Rock?
And it was actually a good time.
I wish it was. What I learned was, don't have your first gig at the Comedy Store if you're not ready. And I remember my first joke. I went to the Hustler store earlier in the day and brought a 12-inch dildo.
As you do.
Not for personal use.
Well, it was Tuesday.
Right.
It's a sale. I'm a Jew. I like sales. And my first joke was, hey, you know what? People say I'm a big dick. And I pulled out the dildo.
I don't remember that.
I do, unfortunately.
Probably tried to.
I wrote it. I remember it. And Eric Singer was there, the great Eric Singer.
That's hilarious.
You had members of KISS at your very first.
Eric Singer, great drummer, the man they dress up as Peter Criss.
Oh, come on now.
No, I love. Listen, Kiss is the Jewish Menudo. I mean,
yeah.
before black guys in Kiss sing. We're gonna get to that in a minute. The Kiss Cruise.
That's what we gotta get to.
You guys stole the show on the Kiss Cruise. We're gonna finish Frankie's
Repping
story.
Gene right now.
Yes, and you're
This
also
is probably a bootleg shirt. I'll confess. It's probably
Gene.
not legit, so I'll probably
Gene Simmons, come on the podcast just to talk about your drummer's bootleg shirt he's wearing. How
Yeah.
dare you.
He's
We'll also-
talking to clearly.
We're also talking about the 7 Kiss bootlegs I have behind me.
Right.
Kiss in San Bernardino, Vinnie Vincent, 1984.
Classic.
The great
We should
Paul.
pop that on.
We really should, but I don't know if I'm legally allowed
Well,
to.
not on camera. No.
To hear, I got something you could pop on camera.
Nice.
We're gonna end the Facebook Live feed. You guys have such a large fucking band. This is where we do the plugs, which might take 5 minutes.
Sure.
I'm gonna get up while you guys give the plugs. Where can guys find all of you on social media? We're gonna start with Anthony.
Yeah. Anthony Stasi.
Anthony Stasi on everything.
On everything. Wow.
Now speaking to the mic, boys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anthony
Give one
Stasi.
more
Oh,
time.
again.
Yeah, go for it.
At Anthony Stasi on all things.
ANTHONYSTASI. At Frank Sidoris, no spaces. On Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
Todd Kearns on Instagram and Facebook. Todd Dammit Kearns on Twitter.
Now you change it.
Plug your merch.
Dammit Wear. You can go to toddkearns.com and find all my stuff. Yeah, I got merch and everything. Yeah, it's all great.
I'm Brent Fitz on all social media.
Thank you, Earl. Yeah.
I like to make my friends money and go to Jimmy Webb when you're in New York.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Go to Jimmy Webb.
I need more.
I need
Yes,
more.
I need more. See, I'll plug people who aren't even on the podcast.
That's great.
Now, Frank, finish the story about your
Oh, so-
story.
Yeah, the